Well, with the upcoming Penguin show that's going to be coming out this week, Matt Reeves has talked about the little bit of expansion of what the Batman universe is going to look like, what he wants his Batman universe to be, and what that's going to happen there. And it even was a re-release of the Batman in all kind of like to build excitement for the Penguin show, which is coming out this week there on HBO Max, or is it just Max? And yeah, you got a cool popcorn bucket
Yeah,
with it as
yeah.
well. Did you get yourself a popcorn bucket there, Tim?
No, and I feel like a fool every damn day for it.
Did you even
Yeah,
see the most recent Batman film, Tim?
I think I did.
yeah, they all start to blend together after a while, I guess. All the Batmans there.
That's
Some of
the Christian Rail Bale Bateman. There we go.
yeah, yeah, they all just start to blend. Uh, Ulysses said, "If Penguin isn't romancing the Riddler, I'll be disappointed." He said there.
Yeah, if anybody didn't watch all their way through the Gotham TV series, it did part way through the third season turn into a gay romantic comedy between Penguin and the Riddler, and I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Really? Yeah,
Oh
okay.
yeah.
I stopped watching before that happened because I knew they were kind of partnering up, but I didn't know it turned that far into it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I
Oh,
mean,
they partnered up and then they partnered up.
like I was watching the show when it first came out, kind of got bored, gave up on it, thought it wasn't that interesting. And then I had someone go like, no, 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 no. It got so bad that now you need to watch it. So I tuned back in and yeah, it got to be like a really bad Nicolas Cage movie, like unintentional comedy kind of thing where I honestly couldn't get enough of it. And yeah, Penguin and the Penguin Riddler romance is kind of the core components of the story at that point.
Wow. Yeah, I kind of dropped off after a little bit with Gotham there. I mean, Gotham, I guess, is fun if you look at like an Elseworlds type thing, and I guess that's kind of what the Batman kind of is as well. Like they did
Yeah,
these, I think, under a label called the DC Red Label, I think it was called, or they're calling that
I think it was Black Label.
Black Label. There, got my colors
Yeah,
mixed up. Black Label there because I think that's also what Joker is under as well, like its own separate
sure,
kind of
sure.
thing away from all the other connected stuff, like what James Gunn is doing, the whole DC connected stuff there.
For
So
sure.
in a way, I kind of like that. With the Batman, I kind of liked watching that movie. That it was its own thing, right? It wasn't like teasing another setup for a spinoff or another sequel. Like Batman didn't
But
show.
we
I
got a
mean,
spinoff nonetheless.
yeah. Superman didn't show up at the end and, pop up and it's like, "Do you wanna join a team?" He didn't do any of that. That didn't
He
happen.
was busy with Black Adam.
Yeah, he was busy with Black Adam there, helping that movie, well, do nothing. I mean, that movie tanked pretty bad there. Um, so yeah, so I kind of appreciated that with this. And Matt Reeves has come out and spoken about what he wants his Batman movie to look like, and he says he wants kind of a more grounded tone with Batman. And they also come out with the Penguin because the Penguin is not named Oswald Cobblepot in the Penguin show. He's named just Oswald Cobb in it. And he said that he didn't want to name him Oswald Cobblepot because he felt like that was just too fantastical, and he wanted a little bit something more grounded there. And he's kind of spoken about that with other kind of Batman villains. He said that with he kind of wanted a more grounded tone with a lot of kind of characters there, people like Clayface or Mister Freeze there, and kind of get away from that. What do you guys think about that? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm a huge Batman fan, and I think there's plenty of room for these different interpretations. I mean, I'll say we did get a whole trilogy of like pretty hyper grounded Batman movies, and I'm just not even going to acknowledge the Snyder stuff here, but we've had a grounded movies before, and I think The Dark Knight, maybe not everybody agrees with this, but I think it's probably the best Batman film still overall. I don't think there's anything wrong with them doing this kind of hyper grounded take on it. Although it is a little more sci-fi with like the contacts he was wearing and the big like syringe he injects himself with near the end. Um, and so it does seem like it's willing to dip its toe into the sci-fi pool a little bit, even if it's not willing to dip its toe into the fantasy pool. But I mean, I honestly I think that that probably is the choice that makes the most sense. Um, they went with that tone already in the first one. It would be maybe a little weird if all of a sudden in the sequel we're going full supernatural comic book villain with the next thing. And there's plenty of villains. There's plenty of villains from Batman's lore to do that sort of hyper grounded thing with. I mean, Mr. Freeze can be a sci-fi. Clayface can even be a sci-fi thing if you don't have him maybe morphing and shifting as much as he does in some of the stories. Maybe it's just the kind of small like face change
And he
that was
did
in like
show up in Batman Cape Crusader. We saw a
yes.
very
And that was a really grounded take on him too, as well. Like he kind of messed with the way his face looked, but he wasn't changing shape and turning his arms into mallets and stuff like in the '90s cartoon. So you know you can pull that character off, I think, in a pretty grounded setting. You know, there's the Court of Owls. I think you could pull off in a grounded. I think there's a lot of characters. I'd love to see them do the ventriloquist, who is
mm.
just someone with a split personality disorder who you know, one of those personalities comes through in his puppet, who is like this very 20s gangster mobster kind of character. Yeah, I think there's plenty of room for that, and we know that there's going to be two concurrent kind of versions of Batman, right, running kind of side by side. There'll be this for a trilogy, at least it seems like, and then you're going to get the like you know DC Universe Batman from James Gunn, which will be a different actor. It will focus more on characters like Robin and Batgirl and stuff like that. And in that Batman, you know, where he has to share screen time with these other characters more, that's where you should just go crazy and do like the super powered Batman villains. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's probably for the best to go with the grounded stuff for these because that's going to be the best way of differentiating two versions of Batman that are coming, the movies that are coming out, hopefully not too close together, but at least somewhat at the same time. That's probably the best way to make sure they don't feel too similar to each other.
And during a recent interview, Matt Reeves, who is coming back for the sequel, said that it will take place during the winter, likely Christmas or New Year's Eve, which led
Mr.
to some
Freeze,
speculation that Mister Freeze might be
gotta be.
introduced as the villain there. Tim, what do you think about him? The grounded approach that Matt Reeves is coming with the Batman here.
I think it's actually a really interesting perspective to go with because I feel like, yeah, it is easy to get lost in the sci-fi or the fantasy of Batman because there's so many fantastical elements to it that it really does feel like this kind of city off in the middle of whoever knows where, and it just has all these random fucking people there. But taking it to a grounded approach, I feel like is something that I think had it's been a challenge kind of with Batman. It's more difficult to kind of get the emotion of him down without him looking a little silly. There are a lot of Batman properties which do that great, but I feel like there's not a lot of TV shows Batman wise that have been able to kind of get that grounded element down, especially in like I don't know, if you're just taking kind of like a slice of life approach almost to it, kind of like really getting down in the details of somebody's life and their reasons for their actions and stuff. I feel like getting that perspective on a villain could be really interesting. So I guess ultimately it kind of comes down to the execution of could this thing work? But I think there is definitely room for it to work. So it's not necessarily, I don't think any shortcomings on it will be that the audiences weren't ready for it, or it was released at the wrong time, or they weren't interested in it. No, I think people are fine with this kind of, and they're releasing it on Max, which is full of other dramas. And I think that this is kind of leaning a bit more into that drama territory.
Mm. Yeah. And that was some of the criticism with Batman Cape Crusader, which it took a very grounded approach to things, very much pulled back. Batman didn't have all the gadgets and toys that he knows mostly has there. Even his fighting style, very much just used kind of a boxing type fighting style there. A lot of the villains, even if you had a villain like Clayface, as we mentioned, very much he wasn't like a huge shapeshifter. Which you've seen him in kind of previous adaptations before, more recent adaptations, just kind of a, disfigured guy who, face was kinda just kinda messed up there. So you kinda had that kinda going on. So it very much fits. Who was Matt Reeves as the show was an executive producer on this, as well on this show. Yeah, I mean, I could see people's kind of complaints there with, a lot of people saying that, yeah, I kinda want a more fantastical element with Batman. Kinda having that, 'cause if Mr. Freeze, is he gonna show up? Is he gonna be some guy that has like liquid nitrogen, kind of just walking around with a tank in there, and that's what they're gonna do.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like Mr. Freeze is even in the most ridiculous comics, he is maybe one of the more grounded ones to begin with, just because it is like an accident, and then he's got to be cooled all the time to. So I don't know. I mean, that one to me kind of all just translates it kind of perfectly. I mean, unless you're looking at like Arnold's version of Mister Freeze or the Adam West Mister Freeze, then we start getting a little over the top with it. But I don't know. I mean that one. There you go.
The cooler. Freeze well.
I mean,
What killed the dinosaurs? That is age.
you know, a guy that needs to be kept in a cold environment the entire time, and he's smoking cigars. I mean, hey, can't think. I mean, can't think of anything. Is this kind of the last Batman movie that was that super fantastical? That was kind of live action Batman and Robin.
Yeah, yeah. For live action stuff, I mean, I mean, the Nolan trilogies ended with Rises, which is a bit more over the top than the first two, but I still don't think it goes that crazy. And then the Zack Snyder, like Ben Affleck Batman, doesn't feel very grounded at all to me. But
Yeah.
being grounded is definitely not the reason I have a problem with those movies.
Yeah. Yeah, you did have the Ben Affleck Batman. We didn't actually ever see him solo doing his own movie. We just saw him, pop up in, collaboration movies there. We did see him, fight parademons. We did see him do that. So I guess if you want
Sure.
to, count that as well. So that was a little bit more of a, I guess, a fantastical Batman, I guess, fighting those elements. Then he fought, aliens as well and all that good stuff there. Um, so, I guess if you wanna count that one. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see with some villains, maybe you wanna have that element of kinda look like Clayface or Mr. Freeze, but you also have a lot of elements you could just do kinda more stripped back, mind more plain there. Something like, Hugo Strange there,
Yeah.
or as you mentioned, the ventriloquist, there, him, what's another kinda stripped back, Batman villain you could do?
Well, I mean, there's all the crime family stuff, which I think
Yeah.
oftentimes in movie adaptations gets skimmed over very quickly. I think we see, Carmine Falcone, um, maybe Salvatore Moroni, and then usually it kind of stops there. Those crime families spin out into a huge network of their own other characters. One in which I want to say we might be getting in live action for the first time, at least in for the first time in the movie, is Sophia Falcone in the
Oh.
Penguin series, who I know she'll have a big role, which I mean that's actually one of the things that I'm most excited about the Penguin series for. Um,
Oh, I
but
forgot to mention, Black Mask, you could do him.
yeah, Black Mask would be a really good one. I mean, we've kind of already had a Scarecrow, not too long ago, but that's all hallucinations, so you can do that pretty realistically, I think, because
Hush, Professor Pig,
Hush,
maybe you do.
Professor Peg would be another good one. Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think there's a lot of them. And like I said, I think um, you're gonna get the James Gunn Batman, right? That's part of that universe, and I think that's going to have superpowers and magic and some. I think that one will immediately go for some of the really crazy villains. Um, uh, I was also going to
Ulysses,
say
he wants, Calendar Man, that's who he wants.
exactly who I was just going to say. Calendar Man would be another really, really good, like, grounded serial killer character.
You know who I want? They didn't get my you didn't name my favorite Batman villain there.
Which one is that?
Good old Condiment King. I want Condiment King in here.
What's
That's
this?
Condiment King?
The big bad bat guy. I knew you'd be sooner or later. How I've relished this meeting. You, actual condiment king. Come, Batman. Let's see if you can cut the mustard.
Ah man, I want to see him in the movie. When they gonna put Condiment? When is my man gonna get?
When are we gonna get Crazy Quilt?
Crazy?
Quilt. There you go.
Yeah, from 1946. It's not too late. We could still include him.
This might sound silly, and I promise I'm being serious, but Scott Snyder, not Zack Snyder, Scott Snyder, the comic book writer, did do a legitimately really good dramatic take on the Crazy Quilt character, and I like it. It sounds ridiculous coming out of my own mouth, but I swear to God, there was actually like a really well written dramatic version of Crazy Quilt in the Scott Snyder run of Batman comics.
And was this it? Was this from it right here? Let me see. Let me pull a
I
photo.
forget. Was it? It might have been Greg Capullo that did the art for that book. I'm not. I don't know if I remember the artist exactly, but yes, yeah, that is the book that's from. Yeah, yeah. Hey, I was surprised. I was as surprised as you are hearing it now when I read that. It was like actually like, oh wow, they would never have thought that you could have pulled that character off in any sort of serious way. But Scott Snyder did it.
Yeah, and I think Calendar Man. The only time I've ever seen him is he made a cameo in the Batman Arkham Asylum video game. I think there was
Yeah, he was in the. Yeah, he was in. I think he just found his empty prison cell in Arkham Asylum, and then in Arkham City, he was underneath the courthouse jail, and you could actually get different dialogue from him if your internal system, like your actual PS3 calendar, was like set to Halloween or to Christmas or to like various holidays. You could turn the game on, go down there, and he'd have different dialogue for every holiday that the game was set to.
Yeah, so this is him right here. Good old Calendar Man. Let's hear a little bit of dialogue from Cal because I don't think I ever actually interacted with Calendar Man when he was on there. So let's see what he. Yeah, let me go back.
And all that. I made sure she wouldn't forget me that day, didn't I, Batman? It was the first New Year's party I'd been invited to in a long time. But then I wasn't really invited, was I? The restraining order saw to that. Still,
Catwoman
she and I had been close, or so I believed. And a new year means a new start. I admit,
I could see that working. I could definitely see that if they do it like that. And this person's obviously they're using the Dark Knight Returns Batman suit there.
Yeah,
He's got the little bat ears. Are you a fan of little bat ears or long bat ears?
I like both. I think it just depends on the stylistic sensibility of the race, kind of the rest of the story. But
Yeah. What about you, Tim? Long bat ears fan or short bat ears?
Depends on how much fantasy. The more fantasy we get, the more long ears I want because then he's basically just an elf.
What were the Robert Pattinson? His bat ears were kind of shortish.
I think they were on the shorter side. Not quite Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller short, but I don't think they were super long.
It's like medium length.
Yeah, medium size there.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see that. But I love what Matt Reeves did with the Batman. Are you guys big fans of the Batman? Where would you kind of
I liked it a lot.
rank him? Like,
Of that particular movie, I'd probably give it a peak. I did feel the pacing just a little bit at times in that movie, and my one big criticism, because I mostly loved it, but my one big criticism is I honestly didn't think that they gave the Riddler enough time to be as impactful as I think Paul Dano could be as that character. I think he was a little underutilized. But but I still liked the performance. I still liked him as the character. I just wish that he had been given a bit more time to kind of fully fill the presence of it on screen for me.
What about for you, Tim?
I would say I could still give it peak, but just a little bit lower, just because I couldn't shake the feeling that like it was missing a scene just somewhere to like, yeah, because I feel like the Riddler is somebody that could have gotten a little bit more screen time, just like something to kind of give us a bit more attachment to the character other than that's the Riddler. You're supposed to care about him. He's from the comics, which isn't the vibe I totally got, but I don't know. I feel like there was maybe a scene that was on the cutting room floor and it just didn't make the cut, but with context of like a director's cut or even just the deleted scenes on a DVD, it becomes a lot better. But I still thought it was pretty good overall.
How disappointed would you be if in the Batman 2 they do the Joker?
Very.
I'm not saying I'll throw myself down a flight of stairs, but it'll be way more tempting if that becomes the reality.
Yeah.
Like, I like Joker. I mean, I think he's a great villain. He's iconic. He's a great character. But we get so much of him, so many versions of him, and and a bunch of great versions of him. And I think, especially in the movies, it's just so rare that we get. Even just look at what we've had so far. Even doing the Riddler again in the first movie, we have gotten two other major live action Riddlers before. Nothing beats Frank Gorshin still. That's in my opinion. But um, there's so many characters that we listed quite a few of them just now that haven't been done in a movie at all. Let's get some of these other characters in here.
Yeah.
And I am familiar with this. Hush would be great too. And this deleted scene with Joker from the movie, I really liked, and I actually wouldn't have minded if this had been left in the movie, but on the caveat that Joker is relegated to these kinds of appearances throughout this trilogy. If each movie had like one scene with the Joker somewhere in each movie that treated him kind of like Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, where it was more about probing him for knowledge and kind of playing with their dynamic in that sort of smaller, more intimate setting. I think that could really work if you feel like you have to have Joker. Because like I get the temptation, right? I totally understand the temptation to have him around. So that could be kind of a way of having your cake and eating it too. So like you could still do him, but he doesn't take things over. I'd be okay with that, but that is like the maximum amount of Joker I want to see in these movies.
Yeah. Because didn't at the end of the Batman, I think it he's him breaking out, right? Or no, he was in this next to the same cell as the Riddler. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Uh,
they start laughing together in the two cells next to each other. And I mean, I get you could do something with it. Yeah, I'm apprehensive at the idea of Joker coming in and taking over another story. And it doesn't mean they couldn't do a great job with him. I mean, I think there's a reason we've had so many versions of Joker is because he is a versatile character that you can do a lot of interpretations of. Um, but there's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of other stuff. I there's just so many other things you could do.
yeah. Well, yeah. So that's discussing Batman 2, and the future of it. Yeah, I think the Batman 2 is supposedly. I think they finished the script and it's supposed to be starting production next year and then release 2026. I think it's the
Okay,
there. I believe so. They're gonna start
good.
that.
Take your time.
And he says he wants to do a trilogy, so he doesn't want to do a third movie there. And that. All right.